Welcome to Startup Sales Academy, brought to you by SaaS First 100, your destination for every resource from launching your startup to starting your career in sales. Each episode will share actionable advice from people and founders who've actually done it.
Hey everybody, welcome to Startup Sales Academy, your inside track into the world of sales, software as a service, and the exciting world of technology sales. My name is Kevin Railsback, joined as always by John Ellis.
Hello, sir. How are you today? That was a nice intro.
I know. I think we're being overly formal because it's our first episode. I don't know. We're going to get our legs.
Yeah, we were trying to understand the formalities here.
This is Startup Sales Academy, and why don't we start with this introduction episode of just laying it out, who we are, what this podcast about, and really who it's for. So, John.
Yeah, you and I have known each other now for somewhere around 4 years, and these are the types of conversations you and I have on the weekends when we're just hanging out or talking or shooting the you-know-what. And we thought, why don't we just press record and see what happens with these conversations? And you and I both have what you might call non-traditional paths or background into startup sales. And so myself, I've been in B2B sales now for about 15 years, been in software sales for about 10, and I've been in sales leadership for about 9. And I've really seen the entire gauntlet from joining a hyper growth unicorn startup, Series B with growth at all costs and going 1,000 miles an hour, getting bought by a blue chip company, then several years later being divested by that same blue chip company, and then joining a company as his first employee and building everything out and building a great team around it. And so we've got a lot of experiences that I think could be helpful for a lot of people, and we really want to cut out the BS and demystify it, if you will.
Yeah, and I myself, as John may have slipped in there and mentioned, John actually hired me into my first SaaS sales job. He hired me about 4 years ago as an SDR, or sales development representative, for those who are joining us for the first time. I hired me as an SDR into my first job in SaaS sales. I've moved from an SDR at that company to an account executive, to a senior account executive, and just recently in the last month was hired on as a director of sales, all within the same company, but a pretty strong career trajectory. And a lot of that came from the work and the mentorship that John gave me early on in my career. And I hope some of it's peer-to-peer now, but still we have a really great mentor-mentee relationship. And I think part of that conversation is really what we wanted to share with people, is the learnings that we both experience and have in this very high growth environment that presents a lot of challenges, and that's really what we want to talk about. And I think this is a perfect example and place to start off the conversation, John, about the myth of the unicorn company. That so many people are excited to join SaaS and tech to be a part of that rocket ship. Why don't you go ahead and share some of your perspective here?
Yeah, I think really about this is we want to share real world insights from people who've actually done it. But I think what also is interesting, Kevin, is you and I both, like I mentioned, have your non-traditional, backgrounds coming into startup sales, right? We're not the traditional 23, 24-year-old guy with the Patagonia vest and Cole Haan looking to get into it. You and I were both in our late 20s. I was 29, right? I already had my first daughter. You were in your late 20s after nearly a decade as a professional actor. And so we had these untraditional backgrounds that gave us, I think, a different perspective coming into this, and then allowed us to see and absorb a lot that maybe other people didn't or aren't seeing right now. And so we want to talk about, we hear a lot about unicorns and, hey, I'm joining a unicorn and I'm a BDR number 200 and employee number 1200 at a unicorn. And what does that actually mean? You and I, again, had these just organic conversations about what that actually means. And so we want to share information like that. And we want to break down that curtain of mystique, if you will, and talk about real world processes and applications that you can use, whether you're a founder just starting your company, whether you're just getting into sales, or you're looking to go from a BDR to an AE. How do you make that transition? Or an AE to a director? How do you make those transitions? Because those are very tough learning curves. And a lot of times at these companies, you don't get all the resources to be successful. And so it tends to weed a lot of people out. And maybe those people wouldn't have been weeded out if they had the resources and the opportunities. So that's what we really want to share a lot about with the episodes coming up and the content that we're putting out there, because at the end of the day, a lot of times the content that you're seeing out there is cannon fodder and it's clickbait. It's just designed to get you to comment and to say something so that way they can increase their clout. and they can do something. And so we want to really put information out there that can be useful and actionable for people, and really share real world advice from people who have done it and are continuing to do it to this day.
And I promise, once we figure out how to become clickbait, we will probably do it.
I want to be clickbait.
I want you to like me. Look, I'm sure we're going to, through this journey, figure out how to do that stuff. But I think what you said, John, is so important. Having integrity and having a hard work ethic is really important. So is being lucky and just showing up at the right place at the right time. You know, like you mentioned, my non-traditional background. Like, I happened to show up, having left a career as an actor, and happened to show up at your doorstep, and you happen to be the kind of person hiring who is looking for somebody with a non-traditional background. So part of it is luck, but once you're lucky enough to get in the position to have a career that could be part of a unicorn, the vast majority of it is process, hard work, and having the tools to actually do it. And that's what we're really going to share. How do you be in that top 10% instead of that top 1%?
Because you and I are both examples of, you can have a non-traditional background and even a traditional background, but this is the opportunity that can materially change your life and potentially the life of your children, if you choose to have some, right? You're a new girl dad recently within the last couple of months. I've got 3 daughters, and we can't overstate how this has impacted not only our lives, but ultimately their lives. And so it is a great opportunity for many people.
I like that John is subtly trying to tell everyone that's listening. He's like, the fact that you have a house and a daughter now is essentially because I gave you that job.
No, what I think is more mind-blowing is that anyone would actually want to procreate with you. That's the mind-blowing thing. So that's the point I was subtly trying to make, not the other one.
Okay, touche, salesman. What I will also say, though, as tongue-in-cheek as we can get sometimes, it's absolutely true. The opportunity to switch careers is the reason that I've been able to build the kind of life that I want to have. And as John has often said, you know, like, sales is the hard path to an easy life. Sales is not easy, and that's why there's a high washout rate. That's why there's so many people who come in and don't make it. And that's the other thing that we really want to talk about is, how do you make it, not just quickly, but how do you make it in a sustaining way? We talk about a marathon, not a sprint in this career. And how do you have sustaining energy through what is arguably a very difficult world in sales? And the same thing for founders. Like, if you are starting a company, like, the washout rate is high in this world. And so that's another thing that we want to talk about. Some of the episodes that we're going to be featuring in our first few episodes here is brass tacks. Should you outsource your BDR or SDR team? This is a really important
question a lot. Yeah.
As you're building a sales team, should you outsource your BDR team or should they be in-house? What to look for in your first hire if you're a sales director. Also, what to look for in your first hire as a sales director if you're a founder. Understanding stock grants. I think this is such an important thing for people who are considering joining the tech world. Is, you know, stock grants and options are such a big part of compensation packages. And I will tell you, in all honesty, I had no idea what was being handed to me and the opportunity that's in front of people when they're joining, and the illusion of opportunity that also exists. So we'll talk about that, what to look for when you're joining a startup. And we'll also be inviting founders on to share their stories. You know, why did they start these companies? How did they start these companies? Where do they see themselves in their company's growth trajectory? And because we talk a lot about unicorns, how do they see themselves in this hyper-competitive world where being a unicorn at all costs seems to be table stakes in the tech world? And I don't know, John, you and I were talking about the whole Theranos scandal, WeWork, Zenefits. I think these are really important topics to bring up.
Cautionary tales for sure.
Well, everybody, we are so excited to have you with us on this journey of learning about the sales world, of learning from each other. As I mentioned, you know, John is really a mentor for me, and I've learned so much, you know, both working under him and in a peer-to-peer relationship. So that's really what we want to share with you guys. We've got a lot of great information from anyone from an SDR looking to break into this world, AEs who are struggling to climb the ladder, founders, sales directors. We all want multiple perspectives. So if it sounds interesting, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment and share. Does that work? Does just asking people to do it work? Is that
I feel like it has to, or otherwise, why would you do it? And also, we're going to publish this podcast, right? They always say, where can I get it? And they say Google, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Why not just say wherever you get your podcast? So anywhere that you can get your podcast, we likely will be there. So make sure to subscribe, write us a review. I guess that's helpful.
Also, if you have any ideas, questions, or comments, you can email us at podcast@saasfirst100.com. We really want to have a bi-directional conversation with you guys. So please join us on this journey, and we'll see you on the next one. John?
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Startup Sales Academy with host Kevin Railsback and John Ellis. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. This podcast is brought to you by SaaS First 100, helping SaaS founders build and scale their outbound sales strategy. Please visit saasfirst100.com for more information on our services and additional resources to help scale your business.